Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So today what I would like to do is to show you how I set up my project when I'm working with Go in the back end. So I've been using Go for a couple of years now. I actually fell in love with Go right from when I was actually introduced to it. I used it a couple of times, actually loved it, the simplicity, and of course so much you can still do with it. And I started learning Go, and I have always Go has so far been my most favorite language. And what I would like to do today is to show you how I work with Go, how I set up my project, and we can move forward from there. So I would of course try to do a quick introduction of how the whole setup would be looking in the end, and then I will try to break down every aspect of the code or every aspect of how the setup is, and then again try to explain it to you like how I would normally do this when I'm working on a project. So we can jump right in already, and like before, I would create a readme over here, and we can actually take some notes. So a quick rundown of what we'll be doing today. So we'll have a list, and let's just call them to-dos. And so one of the things I would like to show you, of course, is how I set up my APIs. The next thing would be how I do testing. Third thing would be how I take care of documentation. And of course, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section and let me know if you have like a contrary opinion, or if you think you do something differently, or if you also think maybe there is something that you are really doing much better than you think I'm doing it. Please call my attention to it. I will always want to hear what you have to say. And the next thing I could show you is how I set up my handlers. Of course, would be like how I set up my utility functions. The next thing in the list would be, let's say, types, and yeah, structs for now, just to keep it simple. And the next thing, of course, would be, I'll call this API documentation. So just to differentiate between both, I can actually just call this, this would be the code documentation, and this will be API documentation, and this will be actually more or less in the direction of using Swagger. And the next thing I would want to show you how I do it is linting. I think that would mostly cover it. Along the line while we proceed, if I think of something else that I would want, I think should make this list, I would of course put it in there. And what I will also do is try to structure this video as much as possible, so you can always come back and jump in from where you left off, and be able to consume this actually. And yep, so I would like to talk about a couple of tools that I would like to use. So one, I would like to, of course, in defining my structs, my types, I would like to do protobuf. So that's Google gRPC protocol buffers, and I really actually love working with this. I maybe in the future I'll also show you how you can actually set up a gRPC server. If you've ever had to, if you work with Terraform, I mean not just like writing configuration files, but if you've had to let's say write your own Terraform plugin, then you might have of course run into protocol buffers. And I also, of course, at least in my line of work, I work a lot on designing and developing IoT platforms, and protocol buffers is also like one of the protocol communication protocols I sometimes use when I'm handling device-to-device communication. I mean, mostly I would go with MQTT, but there are times when I would want to use protocol buffers, things like maybe sending RPC commands from like remotely to a device, like stuff like that. But yeah, this is quite interesting. And the next thing would look here, of course, would be Godoc. The third thing could be that we need the Swag tool, and I think that should be it for now. So these are some of the things we'll try to cover in this video. So without further ado, let's get started already. And maybe what I want to do over here is to create a file for this main.go, and of course this will be our package main, and here I can maybe define my main function, and I can maybe just print hello, the typical hello world, of course. And just to be sure that everything is as it should, so we can say Golang main.go and the problem. So we have hello world, and so of course the first thing I would like to do is to initialize the project. So I have to do go mod init, and I can give it github.com / my information.silica, and I can call this go deliberate. And so we've initialized our project, and of course if you look into our go mod, we see the name of our module down here. So what I would like to do next is to, of course, to be able to handle most of this, we're going to have to make a couple of installations, and one of them would need Protoc installed locally. So I would see Protoc while I think I have this installed, but it's not. I think I temporarily exported it into path, and now I have to export it again. So 1 second. So I would do something like this, and maybe and now I have it in the path. I would just need to actually add this to my profile. That's my profile file, just so this will always be handy in here. I don't have to always add this to the path. Anyways, we have this installed, and to use this, of course, we need to install a couple of plugins. So we need to install Protoc Gen Go and Protoc Gen Go GPRC. And to install those, we need to run these commands, which I have written down here. So we install Protoc Gen Go, and the next thing, of course, would be to install Protoc Gen Go GPRC, which should be this one. And of course, I'm assuming you already have protocol buffers installed. If you don't have it installed, I'll add the link to the description. Basically, all you need to do is to go follow the link, go to GitHub, and download the binary depending on the operating system you're using. Actually, what I can do here is to have a file called sh, and I can maybe just paste how you can just install this, let's say for Linux. So you have this here, and all you have to do, as you can see from this, would be basically going to this URL / downloads, and then of course you would go through the assets section, and then you can download the binary with respect to as it pertains to your operating system. So this would be Linux, for example. I'm currently using Windows, so this of course would not work for me, but all I have to do is just change this part to the corresponding binary, and that should be fine. So that's actually what needs to happen here. And then you would have Protoc installed. So the next thing we would need to install, of course, would be Godoc. So Godoc is a tool we'll be using to generate documentation for our code. And of course, we can serve this locally, more like you would in a typical server, and then open up a page in the browser to basically go through your documentation to see what's going on. And we would actually get to that point in a minute. And the last thing we would like to install, of course, would be Swag. So this will help us to generate Swagger documentation for our APIs. And that's mostly all we need. So we have this installed, Godoc is also installed, and Swag is installed as well. And now we are ready to start. Let's give it a couple of seconds for the downloads to complete, and then we can start thinking now we are ready to start. And So what we can actually do is you should have no, let's look with swag should be installed. So it's installed so we can add swag in it. And basically what it's going to do is to generate the swagger files. Currently it's going to be empty because we have nothing defined yet. So, but this is what it would look like. And that brings us to the first part of the video. So next we'll move on to structuring our code actually, and then getting to do something. So now that we have everything we need to work with installed, what I would like to do is basically just go ahead and start setting things up. It doesn't matter right now, we don't have to fill in every single piece of code we have to write, but I want to have the structure first, and then we can actually fill in everything that needs to actually be filled in. So I like to have a folder called API. So this should hold all of my API definitions, not the business logic themselves, but just this definition of the endpoints. And I like to have a config folder. So this would hold things like, for example, if I have extensions in the project, or things like helper functions, or like middlewares, and we can actually just go ahead and create a couple of folders. So I have one called extensions. I could have another one called middleware. I could have another one called helper or helpers. Let's leave it as this for now. And I could have another one, say, maybe I would have to define my custom log, but I would have to define this in here. This would be more or less most of like things in this kind of category. Normally for me comes in here is like config, and my side configs, of course, would have our handlers. So I'll define handler, if I can spell it right. And for this project, I'm actually going to let's say we're gonna have two major like entities in this our project. Let's say users and accounts, something like that. And I can have a folder in here called users, and I could have another one called accounts. There were more, of course, they would of course live, all of them would live in here. And I also like to have one called models. That's exactly what it sounds like. I like to have one, say if I have to do anything SQL related, if I have to, I don't know, things like making migrations or whatever, I like to have them this way. And I like to have one called types. And I like to kind of like differentiate between models and types. And why I like to do that basically is within types, I like to define data that I will manipulate, or the data that I have to consume in the end. And if I don't have to manipulate the data at all, if I just have to maybe get it from somewhere and send it to the user, back to the client, or something like that, I like to separately have them inside modules. The reason is because the types I have defined within types, I always like to generate protocol buffers. And yeah, but we will get to that in a minute. And speaking of protocol buffers, I like to have a folder called KB. It's just protocol buffers. And so like I said, I would like to let's say handle users. Should be proto. The users.proto. The second one would be another folder. Delete please. A new file, and I'll call this accounts.proto. So that's mostly it. Maybe we can already go ahead and define our protocol buffers, and then we can generate our types and then move forward from there. So regarding accounts, of course, in next thing you would need to define. You don't have to be conversant with protocol buffers. That's not really the idea of this video. I'm just trying to make you aware of these things. So but you don't have to know so much about protocol buffers. But Yeah, the first thing we need to have in here is actually not syntax, and that's proto 3. Package. So of course, Go uses the concept of packages like we would with Java, and we define what package that the type that would be generated from the protocol message we are defining should have. And for now, I could call this let's say requests. And of course, it's really important that you close off every line with semicolon, otherwise it's going to complain. And of course, we can go ahead and define our account. So say message account, and we define the content. So we have a string, call this name, though this will be account name. So the first thing we are defining here, and the second thing we'd like to define would be, let's say, address. And of course, this will be the second thing. And I'd like to have one that says active, say if an account is active or not. And what I can also do here is to maybe, if I wanted to have something like created at, of course, this could be a string. If you wanted to, it could be like a datetime string. If you also want to have this as timestamp, you can actually just use the package from Google. So go to protobuf. So this will be the type, and of course we need to import this. So above over here, we of course make our import. So it's actually just Google. Again, you don't have to be really familiar with protocol buffers if it's not something you work with. I'll show you how I work with types, and I get to work a lot within the project or manipulate. And so this is how you define, let's say, a timestamp attribute. And of course, we actually have to give this a package. So otherwise, it's also going to complain when we try to generate the code. So we say go package where we want this to live. So I want this to actually be found inside this types folder we defined in here. So here I say types, and then I want a folder called let's say requests, and that's really it. But let's keep this as simple as possible. So I'm just gonna make this a string, and it should be okay. So just to confirm to syntax, package requests, which I hope I spelled this correctly, and this should be Google protobuf timestamp proto, and then types of request, and then of course this will be the content of our message. And while we're at it, what we can do is also define one for users as well. So here, so syntax will be proto 3, close it up with semicolon, package. So let's say we want to have a package called, I'm just playing around my responses, for example. We have our option, go package, and of course it's also going to live inside the folder called types, and we call it the folder will be responses. I hope that's correctly. That looks good. I'll close it up, and I define my message again, and it would be our user. So our user, we have a first name, be the first thing we are defining. First thing we are defining here. And so our user will have a last name, which is what we wrote. This one here. And the third thing will say email, I don't know. And I think that should, okay, let's also say active. If the user has been activated or deactivated or whatever. And so this is actually how you define your messages. Of course, we are not really going in the direction of, we are not trying to actually work with like more or less what you do when you're trying to set up like an actual gRPC API. Then we have to, of course, define functions and methods in this message. But for now, we just want to use this and generate our types. And that's mostly it here. And just to confirm, we have Protoc installed, and what we now have to do to generate our types, as simple as this, would just be to say Protoc and -I, so it should be caps, and the folder where we have this all installed, where we have all our definitions are in the folder called PB, and then we define where we want our compiled, our generated code to live. We said, of course, the current directory. So for each of these packages, we would want to spit out the generated code in the path, of course, relative to what we've defined for those packages. And the last thing we want to do, of course, is to specify where our files are. So I'm taking everything in here that is that has the extension .proto, and we have made some mistakes somewhere. So in accounts, if we go back to accounts, we see here we've actually missed out our semicolon, so we quickly put those in. I'll run this one more time. Yeah, of course, we imported this and we never used it anymore, but that's okay. So if you look now into types, you would see those two folders. So one was requests and for accounts, and the other was responses. So if you look here, we have those. And if you look inside here for accounts, you would see this. So this is our generated struct, and of course there are methods defined on this struct. So also methods that would also allow us to get attributes of the structs, like you can see here, get name. Of course, name, as you can see, is a part of the structure defined here. Then we have address and every other thing that is in here. That's cool. And of course, we can always say go mod id to take care of unimported, of our uninstalled imports, like the ones you see over here. And so if we come back here, it should have been installed. Yes, everything looks okay. Also for responses, everything looks okay. So now we have defined our types. I'll bring this down a little bit so you can see more of the screen. So we have defined, in this case we say the one that only uses accounts, and that's been defined. That's cool. So moving on, the next thing I would of course like to do quickly would be maybe to define the type, the handlers. And I'm going to actually keep it as easy as possible. So we are here. So maybe before we get down here, we can already do something regarding we can already take care of linting. So normally, of course, I like to have a file named .golang c YAML, and I also have like my template file prepared. So I'll just copy this and put it in here. So if you look in here, there are a couple of linters which I like to mostly use to link my code as it progresses, so that I can, of course, you would need to install Golang C, and I'll also add the link on how to I would add the description of course of how you can install Golang C locally. It's just really nothing much to be done, just go install Golang C. It's not so different from it. So it's a Golang C. What is the command? Is Golang C run. No, I think Golang C links run, I think. That's the command. And of course, we don't have much written anyway, so nothing much is gonna happen. So you get an error and you say something like file is not go FMT'd. So all we need to do to fix this is say go FMT to format our code, and we really go as deep as possible. And of course we have only one file, so we format it. So if we run our linter again, we'll see if everything is as it should and everything is fine. So that's good and fine. So now I would like to actually go ahead and start defining the handlers, just to keep it as simple as possible. And of course, for this server, I would like to work with Gin. If you're familiar with Gin, so probably what I would need to do is to come back in here and add Gin. So let's continue. we would define handlers here for accounts. So we could have one that says create account, go, package accounts. Maybe we actually just go ahead and define what should happen. So we have create account. Of course, it should take a pointer to Gene context. And it should take a pointer to Gene context. And maybe for now, let's just return a JSON. And inside the JSON, we return a HTTP status code. Status maybe created, and we return some additional information to the user. We could say something like success or true, and take care of our imports first. Okay, so let's take care of this first. Go my ID to install Gene. So now Gene is installed. My linter is too slow. So if I save this one more time, see it doesn't install import from. Okay, that's okay. So I move this to the side. Now I need to actually import next HTTP. This is created. Oh, okay. So it's not really doing much for now. So we can actually just copy everything we have in here. Let's copy everything, and then we create a new file. We call this get underscore, and we paste in here. And all we need to do for now is get accounts, and maybe return the status okay. And we create another one. I call this delete accounts, but go place it in here, and this will be delete, and it should not be. You can use the status okay here. So we create a new file for this account. Maybe update.go. Paste it in here and change this again to update account. And lastly, we create one that says get accounts go, and change again this part. The accounts go, and that's it. And we will of course maybe add some more things as we go. This is what the structure will look like. And of course we go to users, we do the same. So create user, go. I think I spelled that wrongly. I have to change it. So user, and it would be create user. So users, and I'll have to copy this again just so I don't mess it. And create a new file. Call this it's users.go. So we call this get users, and we create a new one. I think this should be fine, of course. We create a new one called get user go. Paste it there. This will be get user, and then we add one more that says delete user go. Put it in here. Delete user, and of course I think lastly we would need of course complete user. So that should be fine. And so we have more or less defined our handlers. So in the next step, I will show you how I define my middlewares.